So we'll continue with our RISC-V ecosystem panel, unlocking the RISC-V application processor potential. Our moderator is Mark Himmelstein. Thank you, sir. President of Heavenstone, and he is a seasoned leader with a strong track record in the technology sector, formerly the CTO at RISC-V International. And he played a key role in shaping RISC-V technology through visionary leadership. Mark was also the VP of Solaris Engineering at Sun Microsystems, consistently driving innovation and growth. And he was also a pivotal figure at Graphite Systems, serving as Vice President of Products, CTO, co-founder. Anything else? Before the acquisition by EMC DSSD. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mark Himmelstein.
Hello, can everybody hear me? Hey, welcome. First thing, I want everybody to take a moment and thank our sponsors here. They contribute at every level of RISC-V International, the board, the technical steering committee, and all the groups. And as you saw today, working on incredible innovation. So let's give them a hand. So we have an incredible panel here. You guys want to just come up and, we'll introduce you while you're seated here. I actually have cliff notes here, so I won't forget. Dr. Charlie Hsu, co-founder, president, and CTO, has just done an incredible job at Andes and in RISC-V. Thank you very much. And history of places like Sun Microsystems and SGI. You guys didn't sit in the order that I have your stuff, so I'm going to try to do it in order here. Barna, who's a principal member of technical staff at Revos, platform and ecosystem, big contributions around Zephyr project at Linux Foundation, previous work at Google and Facebook, for Oculus at Facebook, but also one of the sort of the founding forces for RISE, and an incredible effort there. Dr. Bergstrom, Lars, Google Android engineering director, a lot of work in places like Mozilla, Rust Foundation, but leads, basically has been the leader that has helped RISC-V get a foothold in Android, and serves on the board of RISC-V as well. And then finally, the one who I'm not familiar with, so if I miss something, please add in, is Sandro Pinto from ASICS. Is that how we pronounce it? Yeah. And he's working a lot in virtualization, has helped RISC-V out with virtualization stuff, and has done a lot of work in IoT systems embedded in enterprise. So, and works in industry groups such as Black Hat. So, did I miss anything, anybody? Is that good enough? Okay, so hey, we're here to start talking about software and the software ecosystem, and we had a meeting beforehand, and the one thing I think everybody wants to know and everybody wants to get a real good feeling for. I mean, you've heard some of it today in previous discussions. You heard Jim from Ten's Tour talk about like things just worked. That wasn't always true. and so we've come a long way. What I want to know from everybody, and we'll take some turns, and we're going to maybe try to do about 5 minutes apiece, and then we're really going to open it up to the audience for questions for the rest of the period. So the thing I really want to know is what actually works today? What applications are out there? What infrastructure is out there? And what are you expecting in the next 12 months? So, technology obviously goes all the way from the bottom to the top. In the end, we want to know what supporting applications that will run and what applications are running today. So we'll start with ladies first. So Barna, you have a unique position here with your work at RISE. So I think it's a really good place for us to begin.
Great. Thanks, Mark. From RISE perspective, I remember standing here a year ago, said we just formed, we're 3 weeks old, we're in the storming, norming phase, and now we're back a year later. We've done a lot of work past 12 months, and we have ambitious goals moving forward as well. Few things I want to highlight is we've grown from 13 members to 23 members. There's just a lot of collaboration as RISE was intended to be. And few things, we have 9 working groups from all the way compiler to the application level, working away in each part of the software stacks. A couple things highlight there is now Java is one of the things that we want to highlight, works on RISC-V. Java developers can now leverage RISC-V architecture from Java 17, 21, 23, all of those from backporting. So we're pretty excited about that. And we are also doing requests for proposals to the ecosystem partners to really help us from the compiler side of the things. We're doing optimization for spec projects. So these are the few items that we're focusing on as the 9 working groups as part of RISE. But I'll hand it over to other folks, maybe Lars.
Yeah, I think, so from my side on Android, what's been really exciting is seeing us go from, people have been booting Android, the community's been amazing, standing it up, but really seeing over the last year it move from just being stood up to executing really well, seeing it fully optimized at all levels of the stack, and that required work. A lot of it came through RISE, through our partners in the community, uploading all of those optimizations. Android is over 75% third-party libraries, so going out and optimizing those libraries. But just doing those optimizations isn't sufficient. There was also a lot of work required in the compilers. There was an expectation of maturity of the auto-vectorization support. And many of the folks, even in this room, had partial patches or work that had been done to stand up their development boards. And so many people came together and graciously contributed it to upstream so that everyone could benefit from it. And that's always a lot of work. It's always easier to maintain your local patch. And so a lot of that hard work, though, is where the polish comes in. That's where everything from memcopy to the math libraries to just application rendering starts to look good and look smooth. And that's really what I like to see is us moving from, it's exciting to see the first thing boot up, but it's really exciting to see a product that you would want to use, something that feels like it's interactive. And now we have that on AOSP. I've seen it booted on multiple development boards, some of which are publicly available, where you can now run Android and have a real interactive graphical experience. And so I expect to see a bunch of products coming to market over the next 6 to 12 months that maybe they're specialized for an individual function, but actually seeing that adoption, seeing applications and people using the developer tools and building real applications and selling products to consumers, to enterprises. That's really what's excited me the most over the last year.
And so Google has a bunch of applications. Have you seen them running on the Android stuff?
No comment.
We tend to do the truth here, so that's a good thing. But have you seen other applications running on the platform?
Oh, definitely, yes. I mean, I've seen lots of people starting to, now that we provide the native development kit for Android, we've seen lots of people starting to port their applications and provide us demos or publish them online. I'm eagerly awaiting the first products to come to market so that people can see more of the experiences that you've come to expect in client devices.
Great. Why don't we just continue down here and we'll finish.
And comment as well. I mean, I will speak more about the virtualization side. That has been tremendous progress on RISC-V. It started basically with the extension of the ISA, the hypervisor extension on the core itself. Then there was a moment that there was to go through rectification. There was no kind of implementations on the hardware to do like the POC. So Then it came out some hardware development implementing the edge extension, and then you start to see like KVM, Xvisor as well pushed by Anoop. Then we also pushed the BAW hypervisor that is more on the mixed criticality systems. And then RISC-V did tremendous job on the platform level, because virtualization is not the core. You need like on the interrupt controller, that's where the advanced interrupt architecture with the elegantly IM6 support for virtualization comes in, but also the IO MMU, because it's a key component at the platform level. And nowadays you see already like the patches for KVM, including AEA, IO MMU. So all of these has been progressing tremendously over the last few years. And now we are also pushing, because on the market there is this need for virtualization of the automotive side, where you need like real-time virtualization. And we are pushing the equivalent that you see on ARM, the R52, R82. So this is being addressed right now on RISC-V as well. So,
And I've heard that there are development boards that are coming out with H supported as well. Are you familiar with what's going on there?
I mean, there were some players that have announced. I did a RISC-V virtualization tutorial at the summit 1 year and something ago. They were already announcing, but the silicon is not here yet. But I believe now that we are very close to have the first development boards featuring the edge extension. That will unlock a lot of applications on top.
Great. Well, maybe that's a good lead into you, Charlie, because I know you support H, and I'd like to understand where you think your customers are with supporting virtualization as well as general applications and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think virtualization is very important. Certainly, that's kind of one piece of it. So they are looking for KVM, certainly other stuff which has already have vendor, even open source, but have vendor support. That's always something that customers look for. But what is the RISC-V working today? So today, I hope you guys have time to look at the booth on a lot of stuff, our partner, and also what NDIS provided. So many things can be run there. And for us as IP vendor, we put out there mostly just to show that our IP is very, very mature. And for it's not really a product, but maturity of the process IP really the start of everything. And for us, there's a couple of things which are very important. People talk about, Sandro talk about Linux hypervisor, and a lot of Linux distro very important. Beyond Android, there's a lot of distro used by, for example, networking, storage kind of application, OpenWRT, for example. So it's good that RISC-V put that together. Before, when NDIS was in our own, I mean, with our own architecture, we need to do that ourselves. But there's also a lot of RISC-V extension instruction, vector instruction, vector crypto. So a lot of computation library should leverage this. I think that's one area which we like to have more open source communities coming to help. And the last but not least, so when we encounter a customer who care about security, the first question they ask is always, do you have something for trust zone? Certainly, trust zone is ARM's brand name. We only have something better, right, in RISC-V. So for this MCU or bare metal environment, that there's NDIS is working on so-called micro T, basically a trusted environment, but kind of doesn't require the OS support. But more importantly, in the rich OS environment, I think in Linux environment, OPT is really the one which is going, and it's very good that NDIS got involved in RISC. We are chartered for that to kind of push it forward. So single core, multi-core is running, and now we are porting it to yet to be about to be ratified IOPMP, so that will be kind of complete all the security whole, and also have support for the application to have trusted executing environment.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you brought up security, because I don't know, when I started, I don't know about you, my hair is pretty gray, white. When I started, there was nothing called security. I mean, you had your login, and there was one guy who wrote a paper. He's now a professor at I think UC Davis. He wrote a paper, and he used to like number them by hand and hand out the numbered copies because it had the secrets on how to break into Unix, right? So today it's a different game. And so Charlie mentioned a couple of the extensions, but this year is going to be just a huge year for security in RISC-V. The security models coming out, trusted execution, more memory protection, control flow integrity, and that will find its way into products. But as you can hear, everybody's laying down the foundation so applications can be there. But it takes time for that to occur, and it also takes folks who are working on the platform in order to get all that in place so that things can be built on top. So thank you all for this good start to this. We wanted to open it up to the audience and see what questions you have about software on RISC-V. So if you don't, I'm going to use my questions, so please use yours.
Questions?
I went to Ireland once, and I went in and basically gave a little presentation and said, "Did anybody have any questions?" And nobody would speak. I put a £5 note on the table, and I said, "First one to ask a question gets the £5 note." Nobody would speak. Then I took them all out for beer, and I couldn't get them to stop talking. And so different cultures, different ways. But please, if you haven't thought of one, then think of one. I will ask in the meantime before somebody else, unless somebody else has something. We heard earlier, the earlier panel on AI, and we heard from Andes about some of the things they're putting in their, IP technology in order to support AI. Can each of you talk a little bit about what you're doing, to support the infrastructure for AI? We heard about some of the infrastructure pieces like PyTorch and other things. So maybe we can just go around, or actually, let's just do it openly. Feel free, answer, any way you can with respect to software that supports AI.
I think, there was an interesting tension on that panel where people wanted everything standardized, but at the same time, you'd hear them say, there's a new format every single day. And so there's this tension, and that's where we try to really get engaged, because we want to make sure that software is ready to support the AI ecosystem, but we really worry if 3 months from now, everyone decides that BF16 is just like dead to us, but we've committed and it's in the profile and it has to be in every piece of hardware that comes out from RISC-V, then we've made a mistake. And so how do we get this tension where we get people shipping products and have great custom extensions out there, and then notice that moment when, okay, I think this piece is going to stick. This is the way we should do matrix extensions. These are the set of formats that we should have for vector. This is what should be in every application processor, especially looking from the Android perspective. Once we ratify an ABI, we're kind of with it for 10, 15 years. So how do we know that we're at that point? And that's where really, I'm not as involved in TF Lite or XNNPAC optimizations. I'm really trying to read the ecosystem and see where are these models going? What are the formats that are going to be required? What are the core primitives that we need to get in there? Because we really don't want to be burdened, we don't want to burden the software layer, and certainly we don't want to burden all of the hardware and IP providers with having to continue to build this block of functionality that never gets lit up again, because those were the models we made in 2024. Can you even remember how naive we were?
I think from Andy's perspective, we just try to use what is available today and just continue to leverage that. For example, LVM optimization, we also can contribute to that, but now there's auto vectorization seems to kind of move quite well. And build on top of that, I think we follow some industry practice to come up with the so-called NA library, so that the higher level AI compiler can kind of translate it down and to use it. And certainly we borrow the flow from used to be TVM, now IRIS, and also TensorFlow, and so on. So those are, we kind of follow that, but try to make use of the best of that and try to map that to our hardware. And regarding customization, I think we are adding custom instruction, but we kind of package that in a sense of that is in a very well-defined boundary, like well-defined operator or well-defined library, so we can hide that. Certainly, we like that at some point become a standard. For example, we can move ahead of before 16 and complete, how do I say, do the full arithmetic instead of just multiply accumulate, because our customers think that needed. So that we can wrap it up, and hopefully at some point that kind of standard can incorporate that, then will be okay. But since RISC-V is moving very fast, and also AI even so, right? So I mean, we have to kind of continue to move, but just at the same time, we make sure that later development we can kind of incorporate into our design. I wouldn't say seamlessly, but as much as possible. So you just need to watch out. Right?
Yeah, I think just to speak a little bit to what you and Lars said about things changing, there's been an effort to try to make things like bfloat 16 or other stuff be optional the first year in profiles, and then see how things go, and then decide whether to make it mandatory or not. Because, you know, like Lars said, you don't want to be forcing everybody to build stuff in and then not use it, right? I'll check again. I have other questions, so yeah. Good. You saved me. Thank you.
In terms of the subject of this panel, unlocking the RISC-V application processor potential, can you help us to know what is your forecast of which application processor application or platform will be the first to hit the market?
What do you mean by that?
By hit the market, the consumer market, to the end users.
So I think that's a tough one. If we talk about in general, I think certainly consumer not the first, because there's a lot of other, for example, 5G customer, AI customer. They are not just doing acceleration, but they are kind of targeting applications. So they need to have like processor running Linux to kind of to support that. But if you want to say do a wild guess, maybe robotics. You have a application processor running Linux, do all the control, take application, but then you need to come with the capability to doing the AI model locally instead of kind of communicating with the cloud. So today there's a lot of kind of dumb robots kind of running around to kind of sending you the plate. I think if next step should be move beyond that, and hopefully what I say has the place there.
Yeah, I just want to add to Francois's question of, it seems like so look, all I have is anecdotal information. We don't require people report how many units, but I'm guessing there's 30 billion RISC-V cores out there for profit. I mean, Bluetrum announced last August they had already shipped over 3 billion cores in earbuds. And so it seems like the ramp to get out things that are in disk drives and earbuds. Seagate started shipping theirs in earbuds, in IoT things, in captive things where you're not doing general purpose computing. It's a single application. That's been the path of least resistance. And I think as we start seeing other stuff, we're hoping that changes and more general purpose applications. But I guess the question I have is will there be things in the RISC-V ecosystem to further support I'd say it's a trend of having IoT embedded, dedicated processors, and there's been sort of a resistance in the customer base of doing anything except the basic tools like LLVM and GCC. Will there be something like the ARM, you know, I forgot what it's called, Cortex-M or whatever, on RISC-V? Will there be things to support it in the software ecosystem?
Yeah, not necessarily which market, but one of the things is we're building the foundation so that these markets can take advantage of that. We, as RISE, launched RISC-V Software Optimization Guide earlier this year that we're really excited about. Basically, those of us who've been at Intel or been working on the mature architectures in the past, optimization guides are thousands of pages, and it has so much details of tools for developers and how to take advantage of the best performance and power. So those SoC vendors provide that, and we don't necessarily have that in the RISC-V ecosystem. So RISE members really got together and looked at this and launched a document. It's in GitLab right now. To how do we enable developers? And I encourage all of you to go take a look at it and provide your input, really, so that developers can take advantage of it and build these great applications using tools like optimization guide.
Maybe I can add a bit here. Speaking about the markets, one market that probably is not happening tomorrow, but will play a significant role, and I'm speaking from the European side now, is automotive for sure. Nowadays in Europe, we have like some of the big players for automotive, and I can guarantee that they are all transitioning towards RISC-V, and the European Union is putting millions and millions to make this happen. So yeah, it's probably not happening tomorrow, but when it happens, it will play a significant role. And they recognize like the ecosystem behind the different tools, the different players, and they see a significant advantage on that.
I mean, coming back to one of the comments that Mark made, one of the challenges with open standards and open source like AOSP is we actually don't know. I am fairly certain that right now there are RISC-V processors running AOSP, and they might be a thermostat, they might be a point-of-sale terminal, they might be a piece of gas pump hardware, and no one bothered to tell Mark or I. Because why would they? These are open standards. This is open source. They can take it. They can build products. You know, but I think coming back to what Barna said, there's this sort of interesting inflection. I feel like RVA 22 plus vector, or RVA 23 is the first one where I feel like it's a fantastic baseline. And so I'm really excited for the next 6 to 12 months, not just for things built directly on Android, but built on Linux, standalone AOSP. I feel like this is the great IP ecosystem is here, the software and the tools are here. Now it's going to open up a lot of OEMs to build products and take them to market, and they're going to be able to do so, as other panelists have mentioned, incredibly quickly. The time to market I've seen for these development boards, it's so fast. I always think, oh, it's going to be another 18 months, and then 6 months later, someone's knocking on my door with, here you go, here's a board, can you help me stand up Android on it? You know, and so that's really, it's great energy. It's hard, but it's great energy, and so I think we're going to just see them continue to appear.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the COVID supply chain issue was significant. But then you went to the summit last December. There was, what, I don't know, 35 boards and products on the little test me table. And I think that's only going to grow. I don't know if Tiffany's here, but, you know, amazing job in getting that stuff together. But this gentleman had a question, right? So,
how about a softball question for Lars? In the world of AI question and answering systems, how does Google Assistant rank?
I'm not going to comment on our AI systems. More seriously, I'm on the Android team,
okay.
And so
it actually ranks very high. It's one of the top 5.
But you can ask Gemini that question, and I would be delighted to see it.
Rigged answer, of course. Yes.
Thank you. I'm Dr. K.R.S. Murthy. For the main question we are discussing today, for the whole day and this panel, how do we unlock the potential for the application processor, the RISC processor here, is to throw a challenge. I mean, really throw a challenge to the world level, you know, you guys, and say, there is a big prize here, whatever. You come up with the biggest prize if you think it's worth it, right? to unlock the potential. You may not get only one, but may not be two, but it depends on how excitedly you ask the questions and incentivize. Lots of creative people are there, inside and outside the company and all these people. And don't give prompts, oh, we only do automotive, only do this. No, don't do that. Open challenge, whichever way it is, and every response will be seriously looked at by the principals of the company, the CTOs and so on. That's the best way. The reason I'm saying is that I have developed many paradigm shifts in the world, highest number of paradigm shifts. One of them is what is called kaleidoscope brainstorming session, which I have implemented with who's in the world. And where it is a kaleidoscope, you have seen it, right? And where multiple reflections of any piece, glass pieces that you put, bangles pieces that you put, becomes a pattern. So that way, you need to have that, and then you need to have a panel discussion where kaleidoscope brainstorming is used. It's called out-of-the-body thinking. So that's the best way to really do. A panel is good, right? But panel becomes passive when they start talking.
So I agree with you 100%. The great ideas don't come. The great ideas don't come from us. They come from people, at the lowest levels and who are working day to day. I just want to remind everybody that both the RISC-V, the Open Hardware Group, other ones are running contests all the time to try to encourage people to do those things. And then there are really big birds, of a feather meetings at the summits in order to encourage this kind of brainstorming. So, I know not to take the name away from you, but before there was RISE, there was a project called RISER. And I went to one of these brainstorming sessions with RISER at the European Summit, which is doing HPC, kind of stuff. So I think, Barna, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, this is exactly why some of us got together, and that was how RISE was formed. Let's collaborate, and there's plenty of work. We saw duplication in efforts, so let's collaborate. And where do we really put our efforts, divide and conquer in some of these areas? At RISE, one of the things is compiler. We think having a robust compiler for the architecture is really going to help us in everything that's standing on top of the compiler. So there has been a lot of effort on the LLVM from you guys, and as well as GCC and the rest of the community. So we think there needs to be a lot of effort that needs to be put in to optimize some of the new extensions to the compilers.
Are there other questions?
One back here.
Manoj Rathore from Samsung. I'm trying to catch up on the RISE ecosystem, and as I did my study recently, I came upon this article about Google withdrawing support for RISC in the certain kernel, and I'm not very proficient in this field. I'm a process and device person, but that's something I wanted to understand. How does that affect what you folks are trying to do?
I'm sure Lars got a lot of emails, my 5 a.m. email including.
I'm not familiar with what you're talking about. So no, more seriously, again, RISC-V is a tier 1 platform for Android. We support it in AOSP today. You can download, there's the newest version, Android 15, that you can download. It is now part of it's one of the supported ABIs. You can download the source code, you can bring it up on your device, you can run the CTS tests, you can decide that your device is Android compatible, and you can openly call it that. We have a full set of developer tools, and we intend to continue making those available. The specific thing that got picked up in the news is for the Google mobile supported Android devices, we build a version of the Linux kernel that we distribute. So that is all of our 1,600 vendors, right? They don't have 1,600 different builds of the Linux kernel, we build it. And when we build it, we take on the responsibility of backporting every security fix into that build for the lifetime that we support that version of Android, which is many years. Given that we do not expect to ship any Android devices on RISC-V, on Android V, we decided we didn't want to be backporting a bunch of security fixes into a kernel that no one was downloading and using. So we are still building and providing a kernel for people to use, but we aren't doing the full support and the backport of every single security fix into that kernel. And unfortunately, the message was not particularly great on that one.
Yeah, hi, it's Paul here. Thanks for being here, Mark and everyone. I guess touching on how to keep or how to get more, keep people involved and get more people involved. What's being done? Is there any thoughts for the academic community? You know, not so much application developments in industry, but you know, how can we sort of make sure that the academics and the people learning this stuff will be able to learn and develop applications in an open way? And you know, I guess we don't have something like the MATLAB or the LabVIEW, you know, proprietary things entering university curriculum. You know, how do we keep things agnostic or general and sort of, you know, good length of time? Because knowing that a student takes, what, 4 to 6 years to get out, a lot of things can change, you know, even just one term.
Yeah, I think you are the right guy to answer among the RISC-V International.
No, I was up here
can
to do
comment
this.
as well because
So there is a thing called Learn at RISC-V, run by this wonderful woman, Megan, who goes ahead and really engages the community. But I don't know anybody else's impression. My impression is we've already won in the universities. It's just hands down. Everybody I talk to is doing it, partially because it's open, you know, for people to do. You know, we heard 2 years ago about a 12-year-old in India making his own RISC-V chip. You know, you know, we heard Dr. Bao last in the European Summit last year talk about every student has to make his own RISC-V chip in you know, in the China Academy of Sciences and all the universities that they work with. You know, we have folks from RISC. We have folks from, I forgot where Guy is from. I don't know if anybody knows. And then we have on the board we have Stefan from Munich. You know, Benini in Italy, right?
the age in Bologna.
Yeah, I mean, so I saw just, you know, like 3 years ago, you know, an AI chip with, I don't know, 32 cores out of Bologna in Italy. So there's just an incredible amount that's going on. But if you have any good ideas, I suggest you get a hold of Megan at learn@risc-v.org and help us out, because the good ideas, again, come from all of you. Not just here. But I'm gonna, before we go on, I'm gonna throw a little curve at the panelists as the final thing we'll do. You know, we have 5 minutes left. I want you to think about what is the headline in 5 years if you're reporting for the news about the software ecosystem on RISC-V. What do you expect it to say in 5 years? And we'll all, I mean, obviously everybody's got their own perspectives, but think about that as we go on to our next questions. So, are there any other takers on questions? Okay, back to me. You're stuck with my questions. So we talked a little bit about automotive, and we heard last year that getting into like the infotainment system and the main processor, was really going to take about 8 years to do in the automotive because of all the ISIL stuff, all the other things. But we are seeing it starting to creep in various places. We saw Andes provide IP to Renesas, who in turn provided stuff to ASUS, who put out a auto board, right, for people to do development. Although they are no longer a member of RISC-V. So I don't work for RISC-V anymore, so what you're hearing now is just my opinions. But, when I first joined, it was very clear that Tesla was using RISC-V for a bunch of things that were, specific things, not as their main infotainment thing, but like either for I/O or security or stuff like that. What's everybody's experience and opinions about what's going on in the auto industry? And also, we had the big announcement last year from NXP and Qualcomm and Bosch, and they created this consortium. Let's just whoever wants to speak, talk about where you think things are in automotive and where you think they're going. And you talked about functional safety, so.
Yeah, so let me start with not 5-year projection, but just automotive from our perspective. So auto industry is extremely conservative, right? So we've been, for example, working with tier 1 for, I don't know, maybe over years, kind of still doing evaluating, still thinking about it. But we do have other success like we talk about today. So I think, and this is always starting from bottom. I mean, from the easiest one, less ecosystem, less security level, but they really need some automotive certification there. So we start from a COB, and so we have a couple customers there for different applications. It's not, when we first announced it, I said this is not sexy at all, but this is real, right? So those sexy ones, for example, autonomous driving, I mean, you said you need to do a lot of effort to convince the guy to kind of put it in. So you need to how do I say, prove yourself first, right? And if you just try to kind of come up with performance, but you don't have automotive grade, you didn't design the thing according to the ISO 262 practice, they would kind of think a lot about that. So we continue to kind of move from a COB level, kind of microcontroller. Now we move to a COD level. And so once you are in a COD,
Say what those are because people may not know.
Yeah. So say that again.
Say what the levels are. So
a COB is well, I think there's a CO A, B, C, D, right? So B is the second lowest one, but we just keep A because B and A is very similar. So that's using, for example, like touchscreen controller and window control, and in-car radar detection to detect your drowsiness. So those are just a COB enough. But we are moving our target to a COD this year. So we're going to have a core get certified, and that would be enough, both in performance and also in safety level, to go to like more security stuff like airbag or kind of engine control stuff. So, but not in autonomous driving yet. So that's kind of what we see. But we will get there next step, but we do one step at a time.
Yeah, I mean, I can comment as well. I mean, there is a good chance in 5 years to be there. Because one thing is when you shift your experience towards automotive. Another thing is when the automotive guys with a legacy of experience in automotive shift towards RISC-V, which is exactly what is happening in Europe. I mean, you saw these 5 guys having Quintauris, which is the company that you spoke about as the initiative, but also all of them individually, like Infineon, like NXP, like ST as well, they are going there. And in big force. And that's why in 5 years, I think it will be possible to get there, RISC-V mainstream for automotive. It's just my guess, based in some insights that I have.
Anybody else?
I mean, I kind of have 2 thoughts. Number one, if it's widely successful, people aren't talking about RISC-V. It's just in there in the same way that we don't talk a lot. We're constantly finding that people are using RISC-V in places, and they've moved because it provided benefits to those companies. And so they move, and the applications port because there's wide consensus and the tools worked, and everything went, and it's not a big headline because it's just a great product. But the other side is, do we find some major differentiator from RISC-V? It's amazing for battery life. It's got some set of extensions that really enable AI workloads. And then we'd be talking about RISC-V in that lens. We'd be saying, look at these amazing products built on RISC-V that have incredible battery life, or that have amazing AI capabilities on the edge that are private. And so it's really through that benefits lens of either corporations have found great benefit through moving their supply chain to RISC-V, or there's some amazing user benefit. And that's where, at least when I think of success, I think of it through one of those two lenses, rather than like, oh, it's got the C extension's amazing. You know.
Well, we've heard a lot about flexibility, that they can actually do what they want with it. And that seems to have been one of the top reasons. I don't know, Charlie, is that, if, you know, what, I mean, this is a really good question of, like, why RISC-V? You know, what are you seeing as the main decision maker for your customers and their customers beyond, as to why they're looking at RISC-V, and how does that relate to software?
Right. So I think there are a couple of different things depending on different applications. For machine learning AI, I think it's for RISC-V's extension, certainly, and for innovation, because there are a lot of computation algorithms keep coming out, and instruction set itself just not able to kind of keep up because it requires standard. For example, transformer being there, but because ChatGPT, LVM become very popular, so that a lot of customers kind of go back to think about how to speed up like softmax, JLU, and that kind of stuff, right? So custom extension like our provider automate tool, let's get a lot of extraction there. And regarding how that applies to the software, I think whoever add instruction just need to know they should not put those instructions everywhere, but kind of wrap around in the library and so on, so that it's very portable, right? So if you have operator either previously using just RISC-V instruction, now you kind of harden it into one instruction, and you don't need to change much, right?
Okay, we're down to like no time. So you get like one sentence. What is the headline in 5 years with software on RISC-V? Go ahead.
I'd love to see RISC-V on par with two other competing architectures, so that we don't think about architecture. The software stack is mature, and to Lars' point earlier, RISC-V offers these advantages of customizing it. When we have all the software stacks solid, then there is no brainer for
You're going to have to wordsmith that for it to be a headline.
So wouldn't it be, I'd say, wouldn't it, RISC-V architecture on par with two competing architectures? Now we have three mature architectures to choose from.
Great. Lars?
Yeah, the same. I share the same thought.
Yeah, I think I can want to echo Barna, so that like in 5 years, well, this is a kind of vision, right? Or our dreams. So 5 years, RISC-V ecosystem or software ecosystem is at the same level of ARM, Intel, or even better. But from another aspect, not so purely software, but from Andy's CPU IP company, I would say in 5 years, if our RISC-V IP shipment by our customer reach 10 billion, so that would be our headline.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We're out of time. And thanks to the panelists. Let's give them a hand. Thank you.